And I'm back, still enjoying this whiskey. Yep, that's really tasty. So, I've talked about before that I am a big fan of the cyberpunk subgenre of science fiction. Everything from the aesthetic to the actual content of the stories. I embrace the aesthetic. Something about it captured my imagination as a child, really, in the early '80s, and as it developed across the '80s, I was obsessed with it. I watched all the movies. I watched the TV shows. Max Headroom was amazing. I went on to read the books. I played the tabletop role-playing game. I loved the video games. Everything cyberpunk, I was there for. And of course, as I did in a previous video, I talked about cyberpunk films that were inspirational for the Cyberpunk 2020 tabletop RPG. Now there's Cyberpunk Red, which is sort of the update and sequel RPG that has recently come out in conjunction with the video game that seems to get a lot of negative press, even though everything I've seen from it looks really cool, but, people complain about everything. So today I want to talk about movies you wouldn't think of. Secret cyberpunk films, if you will. Movies that capture some element of the concept or some element of the theme, but aren't films that you would jump to when you were thinking about watching a cyberpunk film. So up first is going to be Blue Thunder with Roy Scheider. This is a movie that it's extremely 80s. With problematic things that implies, but it's a very 80s film about an advanced helicopter that is being adopted possibly by the police departments. And it deals with ideas of like the surveillance state and technology and corruption, police corruption and that sort of thing. So I actually really genuinely enjoy this film. I used to watch the TV show, which I think only had one season and had a young Dana Carvey in it. But the movie, I think, is actually a pretty solid thriller, kind of techno thriller with some good action. Malcolm McDowell playing a bad guy, of course. So, yeah, I think Blue Thunder, secret cyberpunk film. I would watch this along with RoboCop any day. I think, if you want to do a police investigation film, RoboCop and Runaway with Tom Selleck, I think, you could do a cyberpunk police triple feature if you wanted. Up next, this one's going to throw some people, but I still argue it is. Josie and the Pussycats. That's right, Josie and the Pussycats. Not only is this movie far better than it was given credit, it's very clever, it's very amusing, it's smarter than you would expect. It also has young Rosario Dawson, which is cool in my book. This movie is silly and it's a blast and it's awesome, but it also really genuinely gets into some cyberpunk concepts. How it deals with the media state, I think, is really fascinating and again taps into that cyberpunk vibe. And you're dealing with product placement and dealing with again with surveillance and with the artificiality of media. Plus, cyberpunk. There's literally a character type called the Rocker Boy. Tell me that Josie and the Pussycats aren't rocker girls. They definitely are. So I think Josie and the Pussycats, good secret cyberpunk film, definitely worth checking out. And if you think that was a weird choice, you're really going to enjoy Real Genius. Yes, that's right. Young Val Kilmer in this goofy comedy about being in college and doing college things, but it again gets into some really interesting techno concepts with satellite targeting and again we get into this kind of overreach of government and corporate interests and tapping the youth to design weaponry, advanced weaponry and stuff. This movie actually gets into some genuine cyberpunk concepts. And now this one feels a little less like a tabletop RPG. I mean, it really is about Val Kilmer and the dude whose name I can never remember because he went on to like nothing else. I'm assuming it's Gabe Jarrett. I honestly don't remember. Does have William Atherton as the bad guy, of course. It's the 80s, so why not? It really is about two people. Now they get some friends and they do go off on some adventure to do some shenanigans. But maybe story wise, it's a little less. But I think it does get into some of the concepts and is a good surprise cyberpunk film. Worth it for some inspiration for your next Cyberpunk 2020 or Red game. So that's what I've got today. I'll see you next time.